Hello. Today I would like to talk about a couple of different ideas um, that I've kind of been playing around with. So, one is narratives and correct use of narratives. Another was, I don't know, maybe it'll come to me. Okay, let's start with narratives. Previously, I talked a lot about aesthetics and how they always lead to delusion and always inflate as fuck, and you end up worse off than if you were not even subscribing to them in the first place. What I failed to account for is aesthetics is not equal to narratives. They're not the same thing. The narratives you tell yourselves and an aesthetic, how should I say, an aesthetic generally, what I mean by that is some idea where you look for beauty of something instead of its practical or real value. For example, there a flower, right? It might be a herbal flower, it might have some nutritional properties or whatever, or it might benefit your ecosystem in some shape or form, but you could be like, "Oh my God, isn't it beautiful?" What is the fact that it's beautiful got to do with anything? How does that help you? Not well, you could argue, well, me observing it and finding it beautiful, it makes me feel better. Sure, but that's about it. It doesn't go any further than that, right? Um, so in that sense, you could say it's an aesthetic. Um, the aesthetics is the kind of value you add to it that is doesn't really actually exist, right? So that's kind of what I refer to as aesthetics. So there is real value, and then there's aesthetic value. And what I failed to account for is not all narratives need to build around aesthetics. They can be built around real value. And you could uh, absolutely create appealing narratives, appealing kind of constructions where you're chasing something that gives you real value, or you're, you know, observing real value of something. It doesn't mean that you become this, you know, closed off from feeling like you can still have feeling and still feel goodwill towards things. Just base those on value, not on aesthetic. For example, I broke down how the idea of love is fundamentally retarded because it's an aesthetic. Well, uh, and even there I kind of touched on this, but I've just made it a lot clearer in my own head recently. Um, it's okay to love as long as it's based on value, not on aesthetics. Like you're allowed to feel that emotion towards things that bring you value. Um, and okay, this leads me onto another point. So that was the aesthetics and narratives, right? We can just leave it here. Next, if you paid attention to my wording here, uh, this allow I said you're allowed to feel love. This uh little Freudian slip exposes how I think about life. That I think in terms of should, shouldn't, allowed, not allowed. And the interesting insight I've come to on this is um allow I don't know how to caption it, but it goes something along the lines of you need to allow yourself to feel uh the negative to experience the negative consequence of something, to be able to choose to do it. In order to be able to choose, to have the ability to choose by your own will to not experience it. Um, let's elaborate this a little bit. So let's say things are really bad, things are super extreme. I wanna um like let's say life is not that fun, and I have some conservative beliefs that are kind of like you mustn't kill yourself no matter what, blah blah blah, right? But inside I'm thinking, fuck, I want to, but I can't. I'm not allowed to. I will never do this because I shouldn't, and I think it's wrong, right? And a lot of people do think this way. At least I find myself to think this way previously. Allowing yourself to go through with it, like accepting that you are allowed to do whatever the fuck you want. Okay, first of all, okay, I went too fast. So, um, you have an action. Let's say we go QS, right? And you're not allowed to go through with the action, right? Not allowed. Let's say it's blocking you from going through with it. What does that imply? That implies that since you're not allowed to kill yourself, that means you're forced to do the opposite. You're forced to live. That means you live not by choice, you live by, well, force, by necessity. And that itself is very bad. You cannot enjoy something that you're forced to do. You might enjoy a lot of activities. You might enjoy whatever the fuck. You like. I think one of the strongest examples. I would like to think of a better one, but this is just one of the best examples I can think of, and like I'm just gonna stick with it. Like you might want or enjoy to have sex, but if you're forced to have sex, suddenly it becomes one of the worst things possible. And the same applies to life. You might enjoy and want to do any activity or live life, but if you're forced to live, you suddenly can't enjoy it anymore. So paradoxically, by not giving yourself permission to let go, not allowing yourself to die, not accepting that possibility, you actually uh, are stuck. You prevent yourself from being able to choose a different possibility because instead of choosing it, now you're being forced to do the opposite. And when you're forced, you're unable to engage with it the same way that you would have if you have chosen. Imagine, um, okay, I'm not gonna go further. It's, I've already made my point fairly clearly, right? So it's very important to allow yourself to even do the things that to allow yourself to do everything so that whenever you do or do not, it's not by categories of I'm allowed, should or shouldn't, can or can't. It's by categories of want or do not want. And that is very significant. Uh, interesting thing, what this made me think of is in Japanese culture, they had this thing like where you need to let go of your fear of death to be able to uh, kind of overcome death. Like you need to become to become stronger. You need to accept that you can and may lose, and that's completely okay. You need to accept that possibility fully and come to agreement with it. You need to be able to put your life on the line. That's probably where the saying came from, right? So, um, interesting thing just observed in different cultures. Um, Life does not begin until you allow yourself for it to end. That is my kind of insight. I think there was one more. I'm not sure which one. What was it? Uh, how can I apply these to myself? I don't know. I think I'll just end the video here. If I think of it, I'll record another.